Hey Shooby Doodlers, how are you doing? Have you ever tried drawing an aeroplane and you get there and you start thinking, oh, how does this go and how does that fit on there and all those weird angles and oh, forget it, I'll draw something else. What you really need to know is there are 5 basic shapes that you really need to understand to be able to draw aeroplanes, but let's not talk about it. Let's go and find out what they are. Okay, let's look at a plane in cross section right the way across. So the main fuselage is basically a tube or a cylinder, and there's the little doors and the windows across the top, maybe a door at the back too. And then you have the cockpit section. Let's do this separately. So this is going to be basically kind of a flat topped cone, and that is going to be topped off with a dome. And then at the back, generally it kind of works that it's an off-center cone. So this is a very boring looking drawing, so we need to make it look a bit more exciting. It needs a tail plane, it's going to have tail wings, and it's going to have the wings as well. What shape is that? I think you'll actually find that that is a tube as well, but let's get to that later. Let's think about this fuselage body to start off with. This is made out of a cylinder or a tube, and how we make a cylinder generally is you can either roll up a flat thing or you can get kind of a square piece of wood, stick it on a lathe and turn it round, so that eventually when you take away these little bits here, and that wants to be a circle there as well, when you take away these bits outside it, you end up with a cylinder. This helps us work out how to draw the tube from different angles. So let's draw this from the end view. So there's a square-ish thing, and a circle will fit perfectly inside it, touching each edge, and as it comes around then each edge is going off at a tangent, and so the point that the direction that you're going at the point that you touch the edge, you are actually parallel to that line. It comes around parallel. So if we remember that, that makes sense over here. So if we have drawn this square, then we can draw an ellipse to fit into this square, which isn't a square now, it's now a rhombus, isn't it? Because it's been kind of sheared that way. And then we've got the same thing going on here. We draw that way, and then we can connect up there, and that is how we get to start drawing our fuselage in 3D, and then we can drop that bit at the back so that eventually we get to draw something more like that, and it is in fact a tube because it's hollow inside, and we'll have the door and the windows all the way down like that. So our first secret shape is a tube. The second shape is this cone, or this flat topped cone. So if you look at a cone from above, this is what it will look like, and you will see the little point at the top, and the point at the top is directly above the center of the circle. So because we know how to draw ellipses now, we can imagine a square shape sitting on the floor, and then by drawing that so that every time you touch the center of that line, it will be parallel to the line, we end up with an ellipse. Well, it's not perfect, but there we go. So imagine that the center is there, and then we go up, directly up, to create a cone, and back down there, and that is how we draw a 3-dimensional cone. Now to draw a flat topped cone, then we have to imagine, there's the line down the middle, we have to imagine we're cutting through the top there like that, and it's going to be another ellipse, so that will cut through there, take away all that stuff, and we have then got a flat topped cone. So that will then come there, something like that, stuck on the front of the fuselage. So let's put that there, number 2, flat top cone. So then we have number 3 is the dome, and when you look at a dome from above, it will look exactly like that. It won't have a little dot in the middle because it it kind of comes to a nice flat bit up at the top. But we can draw it in exactly the same way. Imagine the square on the bottom, and then we draw the ellipse to fit nicely in it, and then the dome is going to be curved up like that. And so the eventual shape that we're going to get is more like that, because we're going to erase that bit there. So it's not an ellipse, it's like the bottom half of the ellipse has got flattened. And am I going to be able to draw that? I'll squeeze that in there, it'll be like that. Now we come to the tail section here. So, oh, let's write that down. Number 3, a dome. Now we come to this tail section here, and this is an off-center cone. So we know how to draw the bottom of the cone. So let's assume we're drawing a cone to start off with. So let's draw that ellipse there. And instead of going up like that, we're going to go up at a point from there. So that is going to come up there and down there like that. And so when we sort of take away that section, then it's going to look something like that. So what we're looking for is that going back there, and that's sort of coming along like that. And then we can just stick the tail fins and things along the side. So now we come to the wing. I have got a piece of paper here which I have rolled up into a tube. You can do this very, very simply. And in fact, if you look at it like that, then we got a circle there. And if I turn it, I'm not squeezing it, but you can see that it has now become flatter. It's turned into an ellipse as we're looking at it. But that is an optical thing. Now, if I actually physically squeeze it, and we start squeezing it, and maybe even start pinching it, can you see that it's now looking like the cross section of a wing? And so basically a wing is a tube, and it's quite conical because it's getting thinner at the end. So it's a weird topology, I think the word is. I'm not a mathematician, I'm not an engineer, I'm an illustrator. But to be an illustrator, you have to kind of work these things out. So let's work this out. At one end, we're going to get a kind of a shape like that. And it's going to get narrower to one end. But then that is also going to be curved like that there. And so, let's bring that more like that. So the wing is going to be kind of this shape. Like that. And nowadays you'll find a lot of them have these little winglets on the end, all sorts of different shapes as well, which makes it even harder to draw. Those are really difficult to get your head around because they're such an organic kind of shape. But this is the effect that we're after. And if you want to have it pointing towards you, then it's just the same. So it may be getting smaller, and it'll be curved, and then this will probably come up like that, and we're wanting to keep this parallel sort of shape there. That will be curved, that will come across there, so it's kind of rolling round on the front, isn't it, a little bit like that, so that the wing will then sort of come up like that. And we'll see those bits coming across there. So this is essentially a tube, and if you think of it that way, you might find it easier. And engines as well are cylinders. So if you think of an engine as being a cylinder, and quite often they're a little bit bulgy as well, so you can add a little bit of a curve to the cylinder. But essentially inside it, the cylinder is the same, and then you've usually got a dome, and if it's a jet engine, that will be going around that way. And if it's a propeller, then you have that kind of attached to the dome. So there are these basic shapes, and then that will be kind of hanging off the bottom of the plane there. So I haven't been keeping up, have I? We had the dome, and then we had number 4, the offset cone. And number 5, the elliptical tube or cylinder. Let's call it a cylinder. So that's this. Offset cone is up there. The dome is up there, and the flat topped cone is here, and the tube is there. Now I'm going to make a much more rational version of this that you'll be able to download if you are one of my patrons on Patreon. In fact, I'm making this for Ed Crone, who actually asked me to draw a Beechcraft stagger wing. You can see I've been doing little sketches here. I'm thinking, so my next video may well be a stagger wing, so make sure you're tuned and subscribed for that. And let me just replace this piece of paper and see how we put all these things then together. So let's start with an ellipse and a tube. So this is going to be a kind of an airliner kind of shape. And then at the back we want an off-centered cone. At the front we're going to draw a flat-topped cone and then a dome on top of it. And that's giving us our basic kind of fuselage shape. Now, aircraft wings are very, very complicated things, especially on jetliners. So I'm going to start around about there, I think. And I'm going to imagine that if it was going straight through the plane, if it was absolutely horizontal, but the wings tend to be slightly curved upwards. If it was horizontal, I'd imagine it was going to be something like that. But I'm going to have mine going slightly upwards, and then again here, that's going to come that way. We want to have this parallel. That's what we're aiming for, sort of parallel about there. Going to have a wingtip up there. This will actually be starting about there on the other side. So that will be going up slightly. I think that's too much. Up slightly there. Ooh, and there. And then we want that little wingtip on the end as well. Let's put the cockpit in there, which means that the doors will be about there. Going all the way along, have one at the back. The door will be curved because that's the curve of the tube, and so we need to kind of follow that. It's not parallel, but the curved kind of way, it's parallel to this curve. And then the tail plane, or the tail fin, I don't know, I've always called it tail plane. Is that the right way? Let's have a little fancy bit on the end there as well. We'll be going up there, and then the tail fins, tail wings. You see, I'm not an airplane aficionado. Well, I quite like airplanes, but I'm not an airplane expert. As I say, I'm an illustrator, and illustrators get asked to draw different things every day. So you have to kind of understand all these basic shapes, and I think that's the secret to learning to draw anything. Work out what the basic shapes are. So this will give us, in fact I'm going to draw, yeah, so I'm going to draw all the way along to there, and I'm going to come down a little bit there in fact, and come to the wing, and then we will have the cockpit like that. Kind of a bit of a DC-10 look about that. And then I'm just going to draw that straight out to the wing and up and down like that. This now looks a bit too angled. I think that's better, something like that. So now I'm going to draw that up and across and back like that. And we need to get that kind of shape, the curve of the wing coming along like that. And then I'm not going to draw very heavy lines, I'm just going to draw these dotted suggestions of lines for the things going across the wing, and then we'll just put in all these portholes, and then another door. This, oh, let's draw up here first. So I'm going to draw that part there, and I'm not sure about that little bit on the end. I'm just going to come straight down there now. That will come up there, and then we can do that. And here again, the wing is tail fin, tail wing. It's going sort of like that. And then this can come up, and there's usually a little bit sticking out at the back there as well, isn't there? And to draw the engine, we need the bit that hangs down, that it holds on to. I'm sure there's a very technical term for that. And then we need this tube sitting underneath, hanging underneath there like that. We'll maybe curve it slightly. So this can come down to there. And that would be slightly curved, a bit like a sausage really, I suppose. And that then comes in there, and we're going to want that part of the engine in there. And I don't know if we're really going to see much on the other side, only about that much. And then when you're absolutely sure that the ink is dry, you can erase all those pencil lines. And then I just went and sort of traced through onto some watercolour paper so that I got a quick little sketch, which I just very quickly splashed in some blue, leaving some little white bits for the sort of speed lines of it going back. And there you go, 5 special shapes that you need to get your head around to be able to draw aeroplanes. Thanks for watching, and you can support this channel and get so much more on my Patreon page. Click to find out more. Make sure you are subscribed to the Shoo Rayner Drawing channel on YouTube, and in the meantime, keep drawing, drawing, drawing. Practice, 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 and I'll see you next time. You take care now. Bye bye.